The night everything changed began with the sound of boots crushing gravel. A sound that echoed like a warning across the quiet countryside. Elena stood in the doorway of the old wooden cabin she called home, the air thick with fear and the faint smell of pine. Her parents trembled behind her, desperate and exhausted, praying that the men approaching were willing to listen. But the Hell Angeles didn't come to talk, they came to collect. And when her father whispered, voice cracking, that they had no money, Elena's fate sealed itself in silence. The leader looked at her, at the innocence in her eyes, and without hesitation claimed her as payment. The world collapsed around her in an instant, yet she did not scream. Something inside her whispered that this moment, as cruel as it seemed, was only the beginning of a story much bigger than pain. If you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. From the moment Elena was taken, her world blurred into the roar of motorcycle engines, dust clouds rising behind her, as she was driven away from everything she had ever known. She expected cruelty, harshness, maybe even hatred, because that was what everyone believed about the Hell Angeles. She expected to never see her parents again. But as she sat in silence behind the man who took her, gripping onto his jacket for stability, she noticed something unusual. The man wasn't speeding to terrify her. He kept the ride steady, careful, almost protective. She didn't know it then, but that small detail would be the first crack in the wall of fear she had built around herself. His name was Cole, not that she knew it the first day. To her, he was simply the man with the intimidating leather jacket and the air of someone who had weathered storms no one else could understand. He brought her to the gang's remote compound, but instead of pushing her into danger, he gave her a room of her own, basic clothes, and told her she would be safe as long as she stayed within the boundaries. She was technically a debt hold, a term she hated, but she quickly realized she wasn't going to be treated like property. Still, her heart twisted every night thinking about her parents, imagining them, crying in the dim glow of their cabin, wishing they could take her place. Days passed slowly at first. Cole was distant, quiet, and seemingly carved from stone. Yet he noticed everything when she was cold, when she looked afraid, when she struggled to carry a bucket of water too heavy for her. He never asked for gratitude, never demanded anything in return. But the more she watched him, the more she realized something astonishing. He wasn't cruel. He was broken. There was a heaviness in his gaze, a weight she could not understand, but it softened every time he looked at her. She tried to maintain distance, reminding herself that he was her captor, even if he treated her with unexpected gentleness. But one evening, as the sun fell behind the hills and the sky burned in shades of orange and gold, she saw him sitting alone by the fire, shoulders slumped as if carrying an invisible burden. Something drew her closer, curiosity, compassion, or maybe fate, and she sat near him without speaking. That silence became their first true connection. Over the following weeks, Cole slowly opened up, not with words but with actions. He taught her how to ride safely. He fixed the broken wooden fence outside her room because he noticed she leaned on it every morning. He left extra blankets at her door on cold nights. Every small gesture melted her fear, replacing it with a strange warmth she tried desperately to ignore. Elena realized she wasn't afraid of him anymore. She was drawn to him, to the quiet storm inside him, to the fragments of humanity he never showed anyone else. But what frightened her most was that Cole seemed drawn to her too, though he fought it with everything he had. She noticed the way he looked away when their eyes met too long, how he clenched his jaw when she laughed with the other women in the compound, how he lingered near her without meaning to. It was as if he believed he didn't deserve closeness, didn't deserve warmth, didn't deserve someone who saw beyond his reputation. One night, rain crashed against the roofs of the compound like a relentless symphony. Elena couldn't sleep. Memories of her parents, soaked in worry and heartbreak, haunted her relentlessly. She slipped outside, letting the rain fall on her face, hoping it would wash away the ache in her chest. Cole found her there, shivering in the storm, and for the first time, he spoke her name softly, as if tasting it for the first time. When he draped his jacket over her shoulders, she felt not ownership, but care, raw, vulnerable, real. In that moment, she sensed his struggle. He didn't want to hurt her. In fact, he wanted the opposite, to protect her from the world, even from himself. but he didn't know how to admit it. As days turned into months, the debt that brought her there began to transform into something none of them expected. Elena became the gentle force Cole didn't know he needed, reminding him of the humanity he thought he had long lost. And Cole became the strength Elena never realized she was allowed to lean on. One afternoon, after a long ride through the hills, Cole stopped his bike near a ridge overlooking the valley. The wind was soft, the earth glowing with the afternoon sun. He stood beside her, silent for a long time, before confessing something that shattered her heart. He never wanted to take her. He only did it because if he hadn't, the other members would have chosen far crueler methods to collect the debt. He took her to protect her not from her family's mistake, but from the world he was part of. Hearing that truth changed everything. Elena realized she hadn't just fallen for a man, she had fallen for the soul he had, kept hidden behind a lifetime of scars. And Cole, for the first time, saw a future where he wasn't defined by a patch on his jacket, but by the forgiveness and love of a girl he once took as payment. With time, they returned to her parents not as captor and captive, but as two people bound by a journey marked by pain and unexpected healing. Her parents, overwhelmed with relief, embraced her with tears, and when Cole apologized with his head bowed, they saw the sincerity in his eyes. It wasn't forgiveness he expected, yet it was forgiveness he received. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these emotional stories alive. Before we end, please comment below, would you forgive someone who hurt you if their heart truly changed? Elena's story reminds us that even in the darkest circumstances, love can bloom, redemption can rise, and broken souls can find their way back to the light.